Welcome to 2025. You're listening to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. This New Year's, Netflix followed its annual tradition of releasing an adaptation to one of Harlan Coben's novels. Last year, it was Fool Me Once. This year, it's Missing You, based on Coben's 26th book, which came out in 2014. Within the 40-minute pilot, titled Every Breath You Take, we're introduced to three mysteries, all centering around Kat Donovan, a British detective in her mid to late 30s, dealing with the loss of her late father, the reemergence of her ex-fiancé who once broke her heart, and the missing persons case about a professor that we learn is being held in a cell by a man in a tractor with a cattle prod. And just like last year, I asked that both of us watch this Coben series pilot since I've read the book and you have not, and I want to see how our opinions align. So let's talk about the meat of the story to begin this. Out of the three mysteries, which one are you most gripped by?
The three mysteries being...
There's the kidnapping of Rudy Dharmalingam.
Right.
You recognized him, right?
No, I didn't.
Rudy Dharmalingam? Every time that I see him, the guy gets more hair. Wakefield? He was clean cut.
The second you said it, I was wondering if it was him.
Lazarus
Yes.
Project? He started to grow his hair out. Missing You, he has a full-fledged beard now. He looks like Saeed from Lost.
Yeah, I definitely cannot recognize him.
Does he not look like Naveen Andrews?
He does.
Okay. And then there's also the storyline of the ex-boyfriend Josh, who suddenly reappears in a dating app after 11 years of just going completely silent, ghosting her. And then, of course, there's Clint's death, her dad's death, also from 11 years prior.
Well, you can tie 2 and 3 together because it seems like Josh had a hand in Kat's dad's death at the very end there.
Well, that is dealing with the cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger is the most interesting part of the show so far because it's the first big change from the book.
Oh, that's not how it is in the book.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. Are you surprised by how similar this story is to Fool Me Once?
Yes, because both shows have female leads. Each has a husband who mysteriously is out of their lives, but
not a husband, a fiance.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Significant other that is somehow back. And both characters are kind of alone. Their husband died in Fool Me Once, and then their dad died in Missing You. But also, even the posters. Let me show you this.
No, I know what the posters look like.
But
yes.
The same thing.
Yeah.
The only difference is
it's the same production companies, right?
Well, yeah, because it's just Harlan Coben and it's Netflix.
Coben has 12 or something. I thought it was a dozen different projects that he was supposed to work with Netflix. He's at this point at like 8 or something.
Yes. So Missing You is the 8th series to be adapted by Netflix. The deal was that back in 2018, right after Safe came out, starring Michael C. Hall, which was also based on Harlan Coben's
I
novel.
saw that. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah. The deal was that Netflix would adapt 14 of his novels and into series or films. And in 2022, the deal was extended another 4 years.
Yes.
But
with Fool Me Once, though, and Missing You, those two stories are probably the most similar from compared to Safe or his the children's series that
Harlan Coben Shelter, which got canceled, but that was on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, between the universes he's setting up, Kat and whoever the main character was in Fool Me Once are actually almost like two sides of the same coin.
Well, one of the reasons why I think it's marketed the way it is because Fool Me Once was incredibly popular. Say what you will, 6.8 on IMDb, 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. It got mixed reviews, but it was incredibly successful. It's the 8th most watched English language Netflix series of all time.
I think it's more important to say it's got 100 million people who've watched it.
It garnered 98.2 million viewers, 630 million hours watched.
That was up until March, and that was last year. So like we're talking about since March, it's certainly surpassed 2 million more views. So this is probably going to be very popular. However, when we talk about the actual storyline, there's very like formulaic things that are happening, just like in his books. She's got two best friends. She's, like you said, missing the significant other. There's the murder and mystery aspect. There's a hacker that they've brought in that she's going to become close to. Betrayal, just the normal stuff. The difference is that Fool Me Once was 8 episodes, and it was long episodes that changed from like 50 minutes to 30 minutes to like all over the place. It's more concise. There's 5 episodes. It's 40 minutes each. We're only going to be talking about the pilot, but I do see a higher expectation for like them being able to get through the book quicker.
Well, yeah, Harlan Coben even said that because his shows are usually 8 episodes, they just had to cut a lot of the fat and just kind of leave the 5 episodes as it were.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. If you remember in Fool Me Once, they added a completely different character, the detective storyline, that I hated because it it distanced itself so much from the book, but it also split the perspective so that you didn't just get to watch it from one person. And so keeping it with Kat, this whole series, that's a smart move. That's a good change. Do you think that, I mean, you called Fool Me Once one of your least favorite series.
It was going to be on my worst of list until I realized I couldn't put it on there because I did research for it.
Right.
Yes.
So do you think that this is better?
Better, yes. But I don't think that it's great either.
I would say despite all the secrecy, the question, the tension that this series brings in, it's a simple show. You got, and part of the reason it's so simple is because Kat is a sharer. She tells her PI best friend, Stacy, Aqua, also a close friend of hers, her mom, her boss, Stagger. She tells them all how she's feeling all the time, what she's thinking about, what she's about to do, along with the fact that we get lingering shots of her clearly thinking about things. Like there's no question about where her loyalty lies. We know 100% what she's doing all the time. Contrast to the book, it's not about what she tells other people. It's actually their responses to what she tells them that leads the story. People freak out when she gives them information. Like, for instance, when in the book version of Kat, she tells Aqua about Jeff, not Josh, but Jeff being alive.
They changed the name, yeah.
Yeah, they changed that name. But that's when Aqua goes through a little bit of a spiral. So it's either that or some characters act shady. She's always paranoid in the book. So you get a little bit more there when it comes to reasoning for why she's making certain moves. But rather than pros and cons, I actually wrote down the funniest changes from the books and the funniest things that they kept. Now, I don't know about you. Did you have pros and cons?
Yeah, I did. And for me, I think the show suffered from a lack of focus. It seemed like the first 10 minutes, especially when they're introducing Charlie and they're kind of checking out the car with Professor Rishi Magari's disappearance, it was trying to be a detective series. And then the next 25 minutes deals with Kat's love life, where it seems like that takes up a majority of the plot.
It actually follows the book pretty closely.
And then the final 10 minutes with Monty, it felt like it was trying to be this like dark mystery. And I just felt like I wasn't sure what I was supposed to focus on the most, you know, or what the pilot was trying to say.
Right. So it's hard to see it because it's like everything that I saw that was a little bit skewed from the book. They mixed up the order of events. They fleshed out some characters. They added the beginning escape scene by Rudy Dharmalingam,
right?
The professor. But at the same time, like I knew everything that was happening except for the cliffhanger, where at the end when she's interviewing that guy, he gives her information that is a little bit different than what's said in the book.
Is Monty? I was just going to ask if Monty was as villainous as he was in the book.
There were word for word dialogue in that scene, and that was probably one of the funniest things that they kept. And I'll get to that, but I want to talk about the changes real quick. So Harlan Coben is a 60-year-old man. When he wrote the book, he was 50 years old, or close to 50.
Yeah.
In his defense, it was 2013, when the data suggests that couples meeting online finally eclipsed traditional methods, you know, just meeting in person. And the amount of dating apps back then, it was like AI today, where it was Silicon Valley was running wild. Everybody wanted a bite. And so here's a pop quiz for you. Which of these is a fake dating app that came out? Bang with Friends. I'll let that description write itself.
Bang with
Grouper.
Friends.
Yeah, Bang with Friends. That's the first title.
Yeah.
Grouper, spelled like the fish. The scenario here was like it was a triple blind date where you would get 6 strangers, 3 guys, 3 girls, and they would all meet at the same time. That's why it's called Grouper.
That would be so awkward because then you have to introduce yourself to the people as well. Like it's not just your friends, but okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Pure. Well, it could also just be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I see maybe where the idea came from. Pure is a hookup only app, but it's called Pure. Kind of just sarcastically. Spooner was a platonic cuddling partners app.
Spooner.
A lot of these failed, but like most of them came out around that time. And then carrot dating, where you bribe the person with gifts, as in like you're holding a carrot up to them. Sounds a lot like prostitution, but like where you're paying for sex.
Okay,
whatever.
I'm going to have to go with.
Do you know all of these?
I know none of them.
Do you want me to read them right? Sorry, Bang with Friends, Grouper, Pure, Spooner, and carrot dating.
I'm going to have to go with Bang with Friends.
They're all real. Yeah, they're all real. So you can't blame Coben for his terrible app. In the book, it is awful. The name of the application is youarejustmytype.com. And the app's features are so outdated. one of the best things they did in this series was updating the app. It looked like a serious dating app. It even gave
matching you with musical.
Harmonize. If
Yeah.
instead of liking someone or like left swipe or right swiping, you're harmonizing with them or you're muting them. I really like that. I thought that was smart. I liked it to the point where I thought maybe the person who wrote it in there had secretly been trying to make this app themselves and finally found an outlet for it, because it was just too good. It's named Melody Cupid. The only part that I had a problem with was that under the listing for Josh, we don't ever see his name, right? He uses a username. That's something different too from the Coben novel where he's going by a completely different name. And that's the first thing that kind of raises a red flag in her mind, other than the fact that it's the first time that she's seen him. But so it says recently widowed, looking for love. Does that strike you as desperate?
Well, it not only struck me as desperate, but also I was really surprised with how Kat handled that situation. So this is like her ex-husband, ex-fiancé that she's seen.
Ex-fiancé who in the TV version has ghosted her. In the original book, he dumped her.
Well, it wasn't just that he ghosted her, it was that he like just left without saying anything. But she's reacting throughout the entire episode like it was just some person that she went on a date with, because she's like cracking jokes with him. She's saying how on the Harmonize app.
Yeah, what do you mean by cracking jokes with him?
Missing you? Like, I'm missing you a lot, and then just using emojis?
So what happened in the TV show is that the guy never texted her back.
Right.
She is trying to break the ice after 10 years or 11 years of not seeing him.
How is that the first text that you send to someone?
She thinks back to, I'm explaining what the book's reasoning because it's the same text.
Yeah.
She thinks back to a karaoke night that they had together. We see a little flashback of that. They're singing the same song, the Every Breath You Take.
Right.
Every Move You Make, or something.
Hence the name of the episode, yeah.
Yes. And so she takes a line from one of the songs and sticks it in there and sends it to him, being like, that's who I am. Like, do you remember me? Like, what's going on? And that was kind of her way. It makes so much more sense in the book, that part does, because she's much more or much less girly in the book. So it's like her way of trying to, she's not just going to be like, hey, like she's not going to do anything.
I just feel like the way that she went about it, like this is someone that she lived with, that she was going to get married to. Right. You would treat it a little more seriously than like I think she did in the pilot.
What do you think she should have said?
I just felt like it wouldn't have been like a joking thing. It would have been like, what's going on here?
In the books, she had stayed there for like a really long time, looking at it, wondering if like retyping different scenarios. And she finally settled on that one, being like, this is going to be the one connection that we have over all this time. In the book, it was 18 years that had gone by. And so she was in her late 30s. This happened when she was like 21-ish. She was either in college, maybe she was even a teenager. I'm not exactly, I don't remember 100%, but her dad was in the force at the time. That's also around the time that he died. And Jeff broke up with her, and that's just been a thing in her life for the longest time. I just like the app. I like the improvements to the app. The other funny thing that they changed was, speaking of dating, why does she need an app? In the book, her friend, Stacy, right, is a bimbo. She is very, very outgoing. And Kat is the exact opposite. She's judgmental. She's gruff. She's tomboyish. She's sexist. And it's because she's written by a man. She's written by Harlan Coben. He does the same thing in Fool Me Once. You remember that girl was supposed to be 6 feet tall. She was a SEAL team person with a gun-toting PTSD-addled lady, widow. And so he just likes to write that character. He writes Jack Reacher as a lady.
As it is right now, I think it's kind of timely when you're talking about the dating apps, because I think dating apps by far and away are used, like they're the number one way that people meet people.
That's why I said since 2013 it's been that way.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that she didn't need it because they started the show differently than they started the book. In the book, she's hanging out with her friend Stacy at a bar, and she gets hit on, and she turns the guy down, and then she gets out, and that's when Stacy's like, let me hook you up with this new app. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. In this show, we see her on a date, about to hook up with a guy.
Yeah.
She's not having a problem meeting dudes. She's already got a love life. Why does she need another app on top of it? the app part of it no longer makes sense in the context of her already having dates and seeming like things are going well.
She invited him back to her place.
Not just invited, like they were going back to her place before the knife fight. Before the knife fight. What did you think of the knife fight, by the way?
I thought that it was
a save the cat moment.
Definitely, but it was a lame way to start the series because the fight
felt
scene
wacky.
Yeah,
like the idea that she would be taking a phone call and then suddenly hear that from outside the kitchen, these two chefs going at it.
There's some chaos in the back, and she walks in, and a chef has been stabbed, and there's like blood on the floor. I was like, what?
There had to be other ways of like bringing her, like saying, "Oh, she's a cop," without introducing that. Even if they had cut the whole thing, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah.
So overall, everything kind of stayed the same from the books down to where her captain, Stagger or whatever. Stagger, if you don't know, is her dad's, Clint, the dead dad's ex-partner on the force.
Okay.
So,
and he's Kat's boss.
Right.
He was the dead husband.
But that's why he's so
Fool Me
close
Once.
with her. That's why when she says like, "Mom does this," and it's like, no, they're not siblings. He's just sort of a father figure to her.
He was the dead husband in Fool Me Once, also Thorin and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Richard Armitage. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the funniest things that they kept. So he calls her into the office. He says, "Guess what? Your dad's killer has terminal cancer. He's about to die." She says, "Please let me go talk to him." All that's from the book. She eventually gets there and goes to talk to him. In the book, she just does it on her own and doesn't tell the captain. In this, she uses Stacy, the PI.
Yeah, it was like a full-on plan. It was like, here's the time. You got to go right now.
By making Stacy do a lot more heavy lifting than in the book and having her have the connections with the prison and check out the visitor logs and stuff, they've merged in another character, which is nice, but they've also made her less of like a bimbo.
Right.
And so that was cool. The problem I have with the hospital, though, this is a nitpick. They have infirmaries in prisons, but to have stage 4 cancer or whatever he has and just be on death's door, I think they let you out. Like most prisons at that point just send you to an actual hospital where you get the care that you need. You're not taken care of by one crazy nurse. And the way they got into that prison so late at night where they were like unhooking bars and she was just in there with him by herself, that was so weird. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. She has this one-on-one interview with the person who killed her dad or confessed to it, Monty. And then they dope him up and he reveals that he may not have killed the dad. And
they dope him up because he wasn't revealing anything about it. He was like, "I'm not going to let you know this." And she started begging, and then the nurse felt sorry for her. I did actually kind of like the nurse's character and her idea to give him the double dosage.
We'll talk about that. I want to wait on the creepy nurse. I found her incredibly creepy. But the final twist is that then you hear Stacy say, on the day that he confessed to the murder of your dad, the only visitor that he had, because he was already in jail or prison or something, was Josh, right? And I was waiting to hear that it was Stagger.
Because that's what it is in the book.
It's Stagger. And that leads to the majority of what happens next. So the idea that it's actually her ex-fiancé who met with him is very strange. And then at the same time, in the story, we see there's a back and forth on the app of them texting each other, Josh and Kat.
Right.
But in the TV series, he unharmonizes her immediately.
Right.
Which just after that song lyric, there's no back and forth.
But my thing was, I was interested because he had to accept it at first.
Right. So like you would have thought that they would have kept that just to explain it, but it was kind of funny that he would get one thing from her and just maybe he just really didn't like the book.
I was just laughing because I was like, he had to have known. I don't care like who you are. You had to have known that was your ex-fiance. So when you like accept it and then suddenly she sends something really nice back, then you automatically leave. It was just such like a weird thing. I feel like that feels like they almost threw it in because they were like, for people that read the book, we're going to give this homage, but we're not going to stick with it or anything.
Absolutely. They waited until the end and then gave the readers and the audience both the same cliffhanger, which is cool. The nitpicks I had was, yes, the hospital wing in the prison doesn't make sense. Charlie, we didn't talk about Charlie. That's her new partner in the book. He's like a bro and she hates him. And in this, he's kind of like the newbie.
What do you think of his car scene where he's able to hack the car and open up the book?
2 seconds. 0.2 seconds he hacks that car. On his first day, though, I think the funniest part to me was when he, as a media analyst, so he's a computer dude, he gets to the police force, he sits down and he Googles his boss. right in front
Right
of
in front of her, yeah.
It's like, you have the police computer, so if you really want to get the dirty details, like, you're going to be able to find them in there in a regular search, not in the Google search. But yeah, also doing it in front of her was a mistake. This one, unlike Fool Me Once, I think there is a problem with it taking place in the UK versus New York. I think her dad being a New York cop and then forcing this British, like, it changes, it doesn't carry the same sway. Part of the reason she's like gruff and like, she's very New York-ish.
Right.
They're talking about places in New York. Her dad was like a true blue. Like that, it culturally, I just feel like it's much stronger if they had done an NYPD storyline versus just random British.
Well, I think Fool Me Once was also took place in the UK, right?
Yeah, but you hear what I'm saying. There was no dad character who was a
no,
NYPD,
I got what you're saying.
officer.
Yeah.
I don't mind the time change that much because she's played by someone in her mid-30s, and Kat in the book is like approaching middle age. So, and then Josh didn't disappear in the book. Like I said, he broke up with her over several months. Things were not great between them, and that kind of happened out of nowhere. But
it seems like Josh in that case is almost treated like he's supposed to be better in the book because at least he broke up with her. Because again, in the TV series, he just leaves. She comes home and he's not there anymore.
I think that's the cutting the fat that you were talking about when Harlan Coben, they were like, why give emphasis on the fact that their relationship was strained at the time that they broke up? Why not just add a layer of mystery to it? Funniest things that they kept about the book. Number one is that creepy nurse. That I am, when she's like, we still follow some rules around here. When Kat tried to have a one-on-one with Monty, and she's like, no, I have to be here. 2 seconds later, I'm gonna drug this guy up for you, and he's gonna spill his guts. Like, that is how quickly she turned on a dime, and she says that right in front. In the book, she pulls out Kat out of the room, and they have this conversation. Like, I heard that didn't go well. Let me see what I can do with a little bit of morphine. In this episode, they say it right in front of the guy. He doesn't wink or blink. I mean,
well, he's sleeping. He's like falling asleep every 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they want you to believe, but it seemed like he was kind of acting like one of those robots in Westworld, where, he was just like turned off for like a moment, and then they like turned it back on to inject this morphine into him, and then suddenly, like, he turned into David after the dentist. It didn't take more than a minute for him to suddenly just go right into, I didn't kill Kat's dad, and that Angie, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because instead of Kat, he thinks that it's his sister. Again, the nurse, to me, she was probably my favorite character just because of how ridiculous she was acting.
She's insane. It's insane. It's the funniest thing that they kept it. The Aqua storyline, I'm surprised they did. They're going to have to handle that very delicately, because in the book, Aqua is a man who dresses up as a woman, and when he is dressed up as a woman, he goes by the pronouns like she and her, and then when he's back to being a man. But in this, it seems like Aqua is just trans.
Yes, yeah.
So I think it's a little different, and also much more sane so far, yet still keeping the character. Is kind of like, I wonder how they're going to work with that, because in the other one, they have sort of a collapse in the past. So, and the last thing that's funny that they kept was Richard Armitage, because he shows up in so many of Harlan Coben's things. I like to think that he doesn't know when he goes out for his roles what he's trying out for. Like, it takes him being cast before, like, oh damn, I'm in another Harlan Coben series.
They have 3 actors from previous Harlan Coben projects, but I don't think the other 2 have shown up yet, and I'm not going to spoil who they are, but I'll just say that I'm glad that they're in the series.
Oh no, I know James Nesbitt's in there.
Yeah, so that's one of them.
Yeah, and he's playing the villain. They changed the name of the villain too. The villain is supposedly the guy who paid Monty to kill the father. And that's who Kat originally wants to go and figure out if she can get a confession from Monty on his deathbed. Because one of the big questions is, why does Kat, if her dad's killer has been found, need extra closure? Like, she's already, like most people, they're trying to find some sort of vindication, but she's already got it, sort of. But she doesn't feel like she has enough of it. She wants to get this crime boss who may or may not have been part of her dad's death and get him behind bars. So that's played by James Nesbitt.
So overall, what would you give the series?
I think overall, it's very simple. It feels humdrum as far as the formulaic nature of a lot of these. I would have been interested in seeing how it would have played in New York. when they started talking about, like, I could have seen a Mike from Breaking Bad, you know, how his dealings with the Force and his son, like, I see a lot of similarities between that, and that would have been really deep. But because this is like 70% adaptation of the book, and I would say the book is probably not my favorite either, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, which is just straight down the middle average. I'm not going to be recommending it to anybody.
I think that it is better than Fool Me Once, because I think that even though there are some crazy things that happen in this story, it's more sane, as you put it. But I'm going to be giving it a 4 out of 10. And it seems like the reception for it, people are starting to realize Harlan Coben is starting to get a reputation for making trash TV shows. 6.3 on IMDb, 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. AV Club said, titled their review, "Missing You is bingeable but overstuffed," and gave the series a C+. Pace Magazine gave the series a 5.7 out of 10. The only really good review I found for it was, conversely, Collider gave the series an 8 out of 10 and said it may very well be an excellent start to the year in television. And as we've seen with Fool Me Once, it really doesn't matter what the review says. It matters how much viewership they're going to be able to get for it. Because if you think about it, really, when you think about like streamers or other TV shows, there are people, or those channels rely on people to make those series. For example, Paramount Plus is basically just Taylor Sheridan's network. ABC, Ryan Murphy created series like 911 and Dr. Odyssey.
They like to flip around a lot. Like Zack Snyder for a while was just doing DC stuff, and then suddenly he's on Amazon Prime. Like,
but there's also just like franchises as well. Like Amazon has the Citadel series, which has been really good for them. So I feel like Harlan Coben easily with this Netflix deal could start being someone who draws huge audiences and kind of like canon in their catalog.
I mean, again, his book is, I think, the thing you have to judge. And if you're making an adaptation of an amazing novel, then you are already 10 steps ahead of something that is kind of just borderline mystery, thriller, suspense stuff that you can get off the bookshelf at an airport, you know? And that's kind of what Harlan Coben's works are here. Now, I haven't read the other series, the kids series, but I think that has more creativity behind it.
Well, the funniest thing is that Harlan Coben is known for Myron Bolitar. That's his most famous character. And if you remember the Shelter series, that was supposed to be
copyright to it or something.
I think they just haven't made it yet.
No, but remember they couldn't make that character in the Shelter series,
right?
Because
so they couldn't include him.
It's like Spider-Man in the Marvel universe.
So that main character of Shelter was supposed to be his nephew.
Yeah. And so he's going to appear here in Missing You. He's the guy that they're missing. We should just touch upon the fact that Rudy Darmelingham, like, he is shown at the very beginning. He's like having fantasies about this woman as he's on a horse, and then he falls off the horse, and then he's tracked down by a guy in a tractor, and then he's like tased by that cattle prod, and we see him strung up later on. That is the missing guy that Kat is looking for. We don't have any leads, but just like everything else, all of it's connected in the end.
I may have gotten a different name, but I think they changed his name in the series to Rishi Magari. That's who I have.
Yeah, real name Rudy Darmelingham from Wakefield. So I just keep on calling him Rudy Darmelingham because Darmelingham is a freaking awesome name. It's got the Dharma from Lost, and so the extra Saeed-ness. I'm going to end it there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.